Okay, now in last session we discussed about what is MSBI and how it is useful to us in analyzing the business, and also where it fits and how it uses the database to provide more user-friendly reports. Now in this session we are going to discuss about the services which are important, which are mandatory uh, to be in running state to work on MSBI projects or to access SQL Server, and we are also discuss about how to install SQL Server and also about different instances of SQL Server. Okay, let me start. I installed SQL Server 2008 R2 version, release 2 version in this in my computer, and once it is installed, how to make sure whether the installation is properly done and where it will be available. Now, once the installation is done, to check the same, you have to go to all programs under start menu, and you can see a folder created with the name SQL Server. Here you can see Microsoft SQL Server 2008 and 2008 R2, but 2008 is not completely installed, and 2008 R2 you can see SQL Server Business Intelligence Development Studio is available, SQL Server Management Studio is available, and different folders related to SQL Server are showing here. Let me explain why this SQL Server Business Intelligence Development Studio. The SQL Server Development Studio, Business Intelligence Development Studio is the framework with which we can develop our SSIS, SSAS and SSRS projects. So if you want to work on any of these three tools, then you need to have this Business Intelligence Development Studio. And the SQL Server Management Studio, this is useful to connect to the databases and to manipulate, to modify the databases or to modify the data in the database. Whatever you want to do to interact with the database or to execute or to select the data in the database, in that case we need this SQL Server Management Studio. And in other words, this is the framework where you will create the databases, insert the data into the database tables and creating tables, retrieving the data from the tables, and whatever you want to do related to databases, SQL Server databases, you need to have this SQL Server Management Studio, which in short we call it as SSMS. No one will call it as SQL Server Management Studio as it is a very lengthy name. People in short they call it as SSMS. And the first one, SQL Server Business Intelligence Development Studio, people call it as BIDS, and we are going to refer it with the name BIDS from here onwards. And you can see configuration tools, a folder under which SQL Server Configuration Manager. This is the most important option available on the SQL Server folder. This is very helpful in knowing whether the service is running or not. Before going to this, let me explain what is a service. What is a service? For example, there will be, to execute, to make sure that any application is running successfully, there will be a server-side code written or server part where the database interactions or anything like that, whatever they want to add as part of the server programming, they will make it as a service and they will install in the computer. For example, you can see different services here. SQL Server Integration Services, there is a service, and for a SQL Server there is a service, and SQL Server Analysis Services there is a service, and SQL Server Reporting Services there is a service. If I stop this service, that means I'm not able to deploy the reports that I created using SSRS. Why? Because the SSRS service is not in running mode. So I have to make sure whether the service is in running mode or not to make use of the full options available in the particular tool. In case if I want to deploy SSAS cube that I generated using the SSAS bid solution, then I have to make sure that this SSAS service is running. Let me show you a simple example how this service will impact. Running or stopping the service will impact. Now I'm trying to connect to the database. So to connect to the database, you have to go to Microsoft SQL Server, the version which you install, and go to SSMS, SQL Server Management Studio. And here you can specify localhost or the server name. Let me go with localhost now. And if I click on connect, it is connected to the database server. And you can see the databases that are present in the database server. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stop the service here. This is the service that is required to connect to SQL Server databases. Now I'm going to stop it. Now the service is stopped. What I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to the same database engine again. If I click on connect, now it is taking a lot of time and it is checking whether this particular service is running and it is available. It is active and available. And it will take some time to check. It will check all the servers that are available, and finally it has written the error message saying error occurred while establishing a connection to the SQL server. The server was not found or was not accessible. That means once I stop the server is not accessible to the front end part. So you have to make sure that SQL Server service is running to make use of the SQL Server Management Studio. If you want to work on Management Studio, make sure you have enabled this SQL Server service. In the same way, to work on analysis services, you have to make sure that analysis service is running. Similarly, reporting services and integration services. And you can see there is a MS SQL server in brackets at the end. That is called instance. What is the instance of the installation? In a same computer, I can install the same SQL Server Microsoft BI combination so many times. But it should be differentiated. It should not be with the same name. So this instance will play a major role. For example, in this case, let me start the service again. The service is started. Now if I try to connect, it is connecting to the database, and fine, it is connected. Now let me disconnect it and connect it back. While giving, if you want to specify the instance, then you have to specify the instance, the server name like this, /MSSQL server. What is the full instance name? MS SQL server. So you have to give the server name / instance name. That means you are trying to connect to this particular instance, localhost / MS SQL server. This is how you have to give the server name and the instance name, and this is the default instance, so you don't need it here, and you can directly connect to that. And whenever you create a new instance, like for example, if I create a new instance with the name SQL Server Development, so in that case I have to specify the server name / the instance name to connect to the database. Let me show you how it looks, and let the server name is Rupesh-PC, and if the instance name is SQL Development, then you have to specify like this to connect to the particular instance of the database system. Now let me explain a couple of things about these services, and we will jump into the installation part of the SQL Server. You have so many options available on the right click of this, of any service, not only one, you can find for any service. If the service is in running state, then the context menu buttons stop and restart are enabled. Why? Because these are the only possibles you can go for when the service is in running state. When the service is in stop state, you can see the service is in stop mode. You can see the red icon here. Then, and it is manual, then you can see the start button is enabled. That means you can start the services. Now there is an interesting thing to know. Under properties, under service, if you see the start mode, this is very important to know. Why? Because if the start mode is automatic, you can see it looks like this. The start mode is automatic. If the start mode is manual, it will be set as manual, and if the start mode is disabled, it will be other boot system something disabled or unknown. Let me differentiate these three items now. If I set the service to automatic, then I don't need to come here to start the service. Whenever I log into my system, the service will be automatically started. Now if you see, the services by default are running, these are automatically started, and this one I executed it, I ran this part, and this one automatically started, this one automatically started, and this is set as manual, and hence it is not started automatically when I log in into the machine. Okay, now the manual start mode, what it will do is, it will not start the service when you log into the system, whenever the system boots. So to start the services which are set as manual, you have to come to the SQL Server Configuration Manager page, and you have to use context menu to start this in this fashion. So this is a overhead for us, starting the service by coming all the way to this SQL Server Configuration Manager page. It adds some extra steps to us in our daily life. So better to go with automatic, and there is an advantage in setting manual too. I will explain that. And the third one, other boot system devices something. If I said that I cannot start the service even after coming to SQL Server Manager. The service will not be started automatically when the system logs in, when the system boots, and also after coming to this particular page, you cannot start the service. Now let me change these properties, change the properties of this SQL Server Agent Server service to disable mode. Now if I stop this service, and you can see the start mode is changed to other type, I cannot start the service. Why? Because it is set to disable, that is not allowed to use. To start this kind of services, what you have to do is, you have to go to properties and change the service start mode to either automatic or manual. If you change to any one of these two, either automatic or manual, then only it will allow you to start the service. Just a second. I don't have access here, some issues. Fine, you can change it to start mode. I mean, you can change the start mode to automatic or manual. There is a problem with the installation. I'm not having full authority, I guess. Once you change it to automatic or manual, then you will get the context menu like this. Start will be enabled, and you can click on start button to start the service. Now let me tell you the advantages of each one. Automatic. The advantage of having automatic start mode of the service is, you don't need to come to this page to start the service. That's one advantage. And the advantage of manual is, manual start mode is, whenever you don't want, you are not working, let's say you are not working on SQL Server Analysis Services part, why you need to start the service automatically, which will occupy some memory and CPU usage always. And whatever the services that are running, you can see the CPU usage and the memory. You can see it here. It will occupy some memory and some space. It is waste, right? It is of no use. So it's better if you can set it to manual. Whenever you need it, you can come and start the service. If you don't need it, you can leave it as is. So you can see some services running here. Let me check that. Here I can see it. Somewhere we have to search for the service now. Here it is. You can see the services are running, right? In the same way, you will find all the different services that are in running mode. Here you can see a couple of services and the processor PID, and you can go to this processor ID and you can check it. So this is the disadvantage for us. If you are running the service, for example, here if you see, you can see the reporting services is running and it is occupying a memory of 41,700K. And in the same way, you can find the services of remaining tools like analysis services and integration services occupying some memory. So it is of no use whenever you are not working on any project. To make it clear, to make it short and simple, if I don't need to work, if I'm not going to work on any particular tool like IS, AS or RS, if my job is only stick to IS part, then only IS service is required for me to finish the job. That means I need only SQL Server integration services should be in running mode. If I set these things to manual, that means whenever I come in, whenever I log in, it won't automatically start. I have to come here and start this if I need to work on analysis services. That one will save memory usage and CPU usage of the computer. The performance will be better. So that is the advantage of manual. And for example, if you're not going to work on any particular service, if you're not going to work or if you're not going to use any particular service, then you can disable it. That one will not occupy any memory, that one will not take any CPU usage. That is the advantage of having disable start mode. These are the different things, the advantages and disadvantages about different start modes that are available for the SQL Server services. Okay. Now this is the instance. Remember, this instance is nothing but a copy. If you are making different installations of the same software, you need an instance to uniquely identify. So you can, it is using the word instance to uniquely identify things. This is about services, and you might have get some idea what the services are and why it is useful for us. Now let's jump into installation part. How to install SQL Server software. Already there is a copy installed in my machine. You can see it here under all programs. You can see Visual Studio, Microsoft SQL Server 2008 R2 version is installed. What I'm gonna do now here is I'm gonna install a new instance, new copy of SQL Server R2 release 2 version. Now let me go to the folder where the software files are copied. I've copied the files into my C drive, backup system, under software. So you can see SQL Server. This is the different files, and here you have two different folders having the same similar information. This is x64 and this is x86. You can see very similar information available in both the things. What is this x64 and x86? x64 is for 64-bit operating system, whereas x86 is for 86-bit operating system. Now how to identify what operating system, what bit operating system is your computer? For doing so, go to Windows, My Computer, go to the properties. It will give you the RAM and so on, 4 GB RAM, and you can see the operating system. It is 64-bit operating system. If your system is 64-bit operating system, then you don't need this 86 part. You can remove it, but better to have it. Why? Because you can, whenever you get a new system with 86-bit, then you can copy the same software into the new machine and install it. Now let me show you how to install. If I click on this setup file, this is the common one, or you can go with the setup file that is present in each folder, 86 and 64 folders. Somewhere at the bottom you will find the setup file. So if you know your operating system, what bit operating system is yours, you can go with that setup file, or you can click on the setup file. If you select this, the system will automatically check the operating system, and then it will take the appropriate one. If you see in the options, it has taken 64-bit x64-bit folder. Why? Because my operating system is 64-bit, and it has taken the file software files from this particular folder. Now to install the software in my machine, I have to go to installation page here. Under installation page, new installation or add features to an existing installation. Select that option. Using that option, you can make a new installation or you can add some missing features to the existing one. And it checks for the support rules. Before going to the next step, I would like to explain one thing here. It is not mandatory to install all the tools like SSIS, SSIS and SSRS. And this MSBI suite will come as part and parcel of SQL Server software. That means if I buy SQL Server license, I will get MSBI with the same software license. So that is one of the advantage. You don't need to buy special licenses for MSBI part. Why? Because it is part and parcel of SQL Server. While installing SQL Server, you can opt or you cannot opt. I mean, you can opt or it's your interest. You may or you may not opt for MSBI installation. You can solely install only SQL Server or SQL Server and SSIS or SQL Server SSIS and SSAS or SQL Server and SSRS. Whatever the combination you want to go with, you can install that part. That is one of the advantage of this SQL Server installation setup file. And once you install any two tools, and if you want to add some extra things to the existing software installation, then you can do that by selecting the same option, that is new installation or add features to an existing installation. New installation will say you are gonna install a new copy, or add features to an existing installation. That means already SQL Server is installed, and if you want to add IS part, you can add to the existing installation, or if you want to add RS part, you can add RS part to the existing installation. Now let me click on OK. Now it is gonna install setup support files. It's gonna take a couple of seconds. This job is done and everything is passed, and there should not be failures. Make sure that if there is anything failed, then you have to go to the message and check what the error is and try to rectify it. And click on next. Here you can see already there is an instance with the name MS SQL Server. I showed you here. I think I closed the page. Let me open that and show you the instance once again. Underscore R2. Go to configuration tools. In that, SQL Server configuration manager. In this, you can see the instance name is MS SQL Server. The same already existing instance is there. If you want to add extra features to that instance, then you have to select this option and click next. But unfortunately, I have added everything in my first installation itself, so there is nothing new to add. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go for new installation. Why? Because you are gonna do new installation most of the times, so that is more useful than adding features to an existing installation. And there is no difference. The only difference is selecting this button. If you select this button, it will disable already installed tools for this instance. So that means this is installed. Business Intelligence Development Studio, Client Tools Connectivity is installed, Analysis Services is installed. So these are disabled. The case will not be different for new installation. As it is a new installation, everything will be, it will check for the license, product key and license agreement. You just check this, and here the same page has come with enable options. Everything is enabled now. If you want to select all the features, then use select all or unselect all and check whatever you want. Okay, and these things are not instance related. For example, you can create different instances only for reporting services, analysis services and SQL Server, but not for integration services. And Business Intelligence Development Studio will remain the same. You can use the same for both the instances. So it is you can install only the instance features. Okay, I selected all those things. If this is the first installation in your computer, then everything will be enabled. You have to select all button to get all the features into your machine. That's the only difference, nothing much. Now everything is passed. It is asking for instance name. Now I'm gonna give the instance name as SQL dev and clicking on next. It is checking for disk space. It requires 222 MB and the available is 357975 MB. So it is far above than the required one. So you are good to go. So click on next. Here you have to select the account type. So go select this option. Use the same account for all SQL Server services. You can go for network service or you can go for system. As it is our local computer, better to go for system and click on OK. Click on next. Here this is about authentication of SQL Server. I would like to add one point about this authentication here. What is authentication? Authentication is to evaluate whether you are a valid user or not to log in and connect to the database. For example, if I take the SQL Server Management Studio here, the first page it is going to show here, the first wizard that it is going to show is authentication part. You have to provide the server name, and here you can see two different authentication modes. One is Windows and another one is SQL Server. Windows authentication, if you provide, you can connect to only local computers. That is the computer, the software installed in your computer which you are accessing, or the other person who logs in, if it is installed in his machine, you can connect. And the SQL Server authentication, if you want to provide any security like some password to validate the user. These are the two different authentication mode. If you select this Windows authentication mode, it won't ask for any ID and password. If you select the SQL Server authentication, it will ask for password. You can see the same. It is asking whether you want to go for Windows authentication or mixed mode. Mixed mode means it will be both Windows and SQL Server authentication. So in any of the case, Windows authentication is minimum. If you select the first option, it will be only Windows authentication. If you select the second option, it will be Windows and SQL Server. If you select the second one, then it will ask for password. What password you want to give? I've given some password. I don't know whether it meets the minimum requirements. And here it is asking for the who is the administrator or who should have admin rights for this SQL Server installation. Admin right means the person who can have the complete control over the SQL Server installation. So I selected the current user, or you can select any other user by using the add button. If there are many people that are present in your network, type their names and check the personality. If it is available, you can click on OK. Then that person also will become administrator. You can add whomever you want to add as admin guys. And this is for analysis services. You want to select one admin guy. This is the admin. I've given the default current user as admin. Why? Because this is not my system. The current system that you're seeing is not in network. So click on next. And what kind of reporting services installation you want to do? You want to have install the native mode default configuration, and the last option, this one, it will install and it will configure. There is some configuration part we have to do for SSRS reporting services, and if you want to do it manually, the configuration part, then select this. And this one is SharePoint integrated mode. You will have good connectivity and good integration with the SharePoint part, and we are as SharePoint is out of scope of this training part, I'm gonna go with install the native mode default configuration. It will install reporting services and configure the same. If you want to get any newsletters, you can check this option. I don't need it, or error reporting part. And finally, installation configuration rules are checked. Everything is fine. Now it is ready to install. It will show you what all you selected and what is the instance name and so on. Everything will be, you can see the instance name here, SQL DEV is the instance name I have given. Now it is ready to install. If I click on install, the installation will start and it is gonna take some time. I'll go for a coffee break and come back by the time the installation is complete. I'll be back after a coffee. You can see the installation is completed, and I have not recorded all the time that it has taken to install the software. Why? Because it is going to take 15 to 20 minutes, which is of no use. Don't think that it will get installed in fraction of seconds or the time that it is showing in this particular video. It will be like around 15 to 20 minutes or even more than that, depending on the system configuration. Now the installation is completed. We are good to go. Now how can I see where it is installed and how it is installed? If I go to the same all programs, you will not find a separate folder for the SQL Server 2008 new installation. Everything, it remains the same. There is nothing new, nothing changed. So how can I find out whether the new instance is installed properly or not? For that, go to configuration tools and select SQL Server Configuration Manager. If you select this, you can see new set of services that are present here. You can see this is the SQL Server for MS SQL instance, and this is the SQL Server for SQL Dev instance. So if you stop this, then you cannot access this SQL Dev instance SQL Server. And if you stop the first one, you cannot access the default instance of the SQL Server. Now let me start this back. Okay, now both the instances are running of SQL Server. You can see here, this is the default instance and this is the instance I created, and you can see agent. This is the new instance I created, and you can see the default instance. So this is where you can find out what are all the instances installed and how what is the state of each service. Now let me show you how it differs, how each instance differs. First, I'm connecting to the local host, connected to the database, and it is showing the databases that are present in the default instance of the SQL Server. And now I'm trying to connect to new instance that I install now. So to connect to the instance that I created, I have to give the server name slash the instance name. The instance name is SQL DEV. Okay. I don't remember what password I have given. So let me go with Windows authentication, and if I click on connect, you can see a new instance is connected. The SQL Server new instance is connected. And if you see the databases, this is a different instance, and hence you will find the different database sets. Whatever the databases that are defined here, this one will act as a separate entity, and this one will act as a separate entity. This is called instance path. So now we have two instances. One is default instance and another one is SQL dev instance. Now let's see how to connect to analysis services. If I give localhost, it will take me to default instance. Okay, the service is running and hence it connected, and there is no databases present. Now let me connect to new instance that I created and that I install SQL dev, and it is also connected and there is no databases in this particular instance too. Okay, this is how you can make sure, and this is how you can connect to different instances that are present in a computer. Now if you install the SQL Server, you can find all the files related to the SQL Server installation and in this following part. You can see Microsoft SQL Server, not this part, sorry, this is 64-bit. So go to program files, and under that you can find Microsoft SQL Server. In this you can see Microsoft SQL Server, a folder for that, analysis services. You can see here MSAS, that means Microsoft Analysis Services, and MSAS again it is Microsoft Analysis Services. This is default instance and this is SQL dev instance, which I installed a couple of minutes back. In the same way you have reporting services, 2 instances, and SQL Server, 2 instances. And if I go to the SQL Server folder of the default instance, you can find under data, you can find all the different databases that are present in this particular instance. You can see AdventureWorks data, AdventureWorks DW underscore data, and so on. And now this is the newly created instance. If I go to this, you will find the same folders, but here you will not find all the databases. You have only default system databases. Whenever you install software, whenever you install SQL Server, some system default databases will be copied into the server, and this is the list of default system databases. And this is the folder to have all the backup files. Now right now this is empty, and these are the main things to know here. This is about the part where you can find the files related to the different instances of the SQL Server installation. Now let us go back to the services page where I have all the services. Here this is the new instance I created where I am the admin. Okay, I am the admin here. Now let me stop this instance. I've stopped this SQL dev instance SQL Server service. And I'm changing the start mode to disable. Okay, now when I right click on this, the start is disabled as I explained you earlier. And now here you can see the instance SQL Server development, which I already connected, has turned, the icon is changed. That means it is showing the service is stopped, the service is no more available, no more accessible. And you can see if it is active, it looks like this. The icon will be similar to this, the one you can see here. Why? Because now I stopped the service, that's why it is not accessible now. Now if I right click, I'm unable to change that. I'm unable to start the service. Why? Because this is set to disable. Let me try to change it to act automatic. Why? Because I set myself as admin, the person who logs in as an admin, and I have full rights. Now it is set to automatic. Now you can see the start is enabled. So that is the difference between disabled and manual. Manual, you can come here and start it. Disabled, you cannot start the service until or unless you change the start mode to either automatic or manual. So this is about the different properties available in the services and how to start the services, how to stop or how to change the start mode of the services. what are all the different start modes available and advantages of each and disadvantages of each, and how to install SQL Server software and MSBI into your local computer, and how to install, and what are the different instances you can, how to create new instances, how to install new instances, and how to access databases of different instances. So you have to keep in mind, this is very important while connecting. You have, if you want to connect to a different instance apart from the default one, you have to specify the instance name next to the server. The local host, I am giving local host here. What is meant by local host? Local host is nothing but the local computer, the copy that is installed in the computer that I'm accessing. Or I can simply specify with dot. Even dot means local host. Okay, dot and local host is having the same meaning. Or else you can give the computer name. The computer name is Murali-HP/Murali -HP/ I think this is the computer name. This will be the server name. I don't think this is the computer name. The computer name is only Murali-HP. Now I've given the server name. That means nothing but the computer name, and it got connected. You can see here Murali-HP is connected, and dot is connected, and localhost is connected. So all the three, localhost and dot means the local computer, and the local computer means server name, that is nothing but the computer name. To get the computer name, go to properties of the computer. You can find it here, Murali-HP. Don't get confused by the word server name. Server name is not the toughest terminology here. Server name is nothing but the computer name where the software is installed. If you want to connect to the software which is installed in some XYZ machine and the computer name is XYZ_ABC, then you have to type XYZ_ABC in the server name text box. If the software is installed in your local computer, you can type the local computer name. In this case, it is Murali-HP, or you can type dot, or you can type localhost. All the three will mean the same if the software is installed in your local computer. And if it is in any computer in the same network that your computer is connected, and if you want to access the database from their machine, you have to go with the computer name of that particular guy where the software is installed. Okay, this is about the different basics that are required to start with the MSBI sessions. And from next class, we are going to discuss about what is database and how to create databases and what are all the different objects available in the databases, and how to write DDL and DML statements. Thank you.